Alrighty, so welcome to a little how to do combat in Jack Hoth, the Legendary Journey video series. Not series, I'm just going to try to do one video on this, just to show you how the mechanics work to start with, and then how you start building up greater and greater strategic, tactical stuff. So as you can see here, we've got the mojo meter over here, and it's full at the moment. This gets harder to use the more people are in the party. You have skills. We haven't got any yet. I'm about to level up, which is why I decided to record here. You can guard, which deals... you take half damage and it builds up SP, which is down here. Skill points. You have hit points, magic points, skill points. And then you can also use items, and at this point I've got some beer and liquor in the front vermouth, which heals up your MP, recovers MP, and recovers HP, respectively. But at this moment, we don't have our mojo skill yet. You get that at level 2. So all we can do at this moment is attack. Like most games, things start off simple and get progressively more difficult and complicated. The idea is that you should learn over time, but not everybody knows how these kinds of games tend to work, so I'm going to have to go ahead and heal. This is going to be a bit of a tougher fight because there's 3 enemies. You can potentially... Yes, took him out, so that'll... So initially, the first strategy for your battles is to just get rid of one person at a time. If you're by yourself, it's the best strategy you've got to start with. If you get lucky, you'll inflict you'll do counterattacks, and they can do upwards. I don't think they can do 114 damage, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to heal. 58 up, so I would have been fine, probably. Okay. Alright, now we're fine. Definitely take one more hit from me. Should be able to. Now we can heal. Yes, good. So your first goal in any battle, of course, is to remove threats, mitigate damage. So we've leveled up and we've got our first set of skills. Has Hashashin skills 1, which makes you more dodgy and stuff. 'Tis but a flesh wound. The Mojo Man and Unleashing the Mojo. So to start with, you can use both of these, because the way it works is you have 2 Mojo skills on each character. The first one takes 50% of the bar of the Mojo meter, and the first takes all of it. And we've also got money bags, and I'll show you a trick right quick with the money bags. You don't have to open up individually, you can just hold down the action button and it'll open all of them one after the other. Just hold it down and it'll open them. I did the money bags. It was a bit of a mistake in retrospect, but it was the only way I could figure out how to do random money from drops off of enemies. I need to go buy some more booze. Right, quickie-like from old Herbert up here. Because, I mean, who else is going to sell you beer? Let's just go ahead and find someone. It's got to be Herbert the Pervert. Who else is going to sell young guys beer? Even though Jack isn't a young guy, a boy or anything. But from Family Guy, it's a thing from Family Guy. Alright, so we should be okay to come further down here, and because we've got our Mojo skill meter built up. Nobody expects the Bruce Inquisition. Alright. There's only two, but haha. And we killed him. And there you have your strategy basically for the first area. You can bounce back and forth between the two. I'll also show you a little trick you can do. You can talk to Beelzebub here, because Beelzebub, and if you want to talk to Beelzebub and do it right, you give him a nice southern accent, because Beelzebub, he's from the deep south, you see. My name is Beelzebub, and I want to make a deal. A deal? What kind of deal? Well, I tell you what, I come down to town, and I'm looking for a soul to steal. Well, go find someone else's, I need mine, so on and so forth. I'll just go ahead and skip through this. You can read through at your own leisure. And the little trick you can use to cheat a little bit, obviously you wouldn't know that, you can also pick up a nice chunk of change right there. Whip. Whoa. You do have to play dodge him a bit. Then just talk to this guy who is Johnny, which is a recurring gag based on a couple of things. Kenny from South Park, and if you've ever seen Stargate SG-1, there's a character called Siler who is constantly getting hurt. So we did that, we got a weapon. So there's another little trick you can use. We got the Monk Dagger, which is an actual dagger, if I recall. Come down to the end here, another little trick. There's me. In the original version, I had all the dialogue at the beginning, so I split it up in the Gold Edition, because some people seem to find that irritating. I mean, it's okay for Final Fantasy games to have 20 minutes of cutscenes before you ever really get into the game, but reading a bit of text is too difficult for some people, I guess. So you can buy the warp keys at the end, and all you do that. You can. All of the items are available in the end, pretty much all the healing items and stuff. And you just look up at the top of the screen here, and it tells you what they do. And how the end keys work is very simple. You can even use it right out here. Item that's under key items. Use it. And it takes you into right to the end where you can heal up if you want. It's a nice little convenience. So yeah, that's your basic strategy for the basic enemies of the first area. Now, a little bit of explanation. This game, Jak Hoth: The Legendary Journey, is an expansion, remake, redo of an earlier game. Two earlier games, actually. The original was a fan game, then I kind of went hard parody of fan games, satire, also that sort of stuff. Fan games, fan RPGs, specifically fan games made in RPG Maker, which is the software I use. I'm using MV. Most of those were made in VX Ace or VX, but parody, spoof, satire of fan games, fan RPGs, RPGs in general, gaming in general, lots of things is mixed in here. But because of it's again a remake, expansion, hard parody version of that first game, which was a fan game. The reason why there are so many enemies in each area is because I built the whole game around a poetic rule, which in poetry you can either use established rules or you can write something based on your own rule that you decide to use for that particular piece of poetry. And the rule I decided on was the catchphrase "like a boss." 3 words, 9 letters. So there are 27 enemies in each area, plus a boss. There are 9 areas, 9 bosses. Each area is made up of 9 primary map segments, plus a few offshoots like where the inn is here. It's not part of the main 9 maps or segments. It's an offshoot. And then each of the maps for each area spells out one of the letters. L, I, K, E. Like a boss. It spells each area, the map spells out the letter. There are 3 dungeons, each made up of 3 maps, with 3 bosses. 9. Plus 18 enemies. 27. 18 in each dungeon. So, again, you find 3, 9, 18, 27 all over this game. That is why. As for the dialogue on the enemies, it's because I wanted them to not be just creatures, monsters, like most RPGs. You know, in most RPGs, the only enemies that talk to you are the primary villains. They have a story to them. Well, in this game, I wanted them, all the enemies, for the most part, to have a voice. I wanted them to be individuals, which is why they all have dialogue. And then you get into the reference themes of Monty Python in the first area, 90s music in the second, Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the third, electronica. Let's see, electronica. Then there's Futurama, heavy metal. And I'm doing some of these out of order. So I think it's electronica, 90s cartoons is after that, I think. No. Electronica, then I think it's Futurama, then 70s and 80s music, 80s cartoon, or 90s, 80s and 90s cartoons that I grew up, heavy metal, and then YouTubers. Something like that. Each area has a theme, which again is a reference, a parody of RPGs, which usually have, you know, there's a grassland, there's a fire area, there's an ice area, there's a wind area, there's an earth area, there's a cave of some kind, a dungeon, there's a temple full of traps, there's a city full of way advanced technology that for some reason nobody else has. You know, RPGs tend to have thematic areas, so that's what I did, only I used the references, and then I used the references to help do the monstrous mountain of dialogue. Because when you're doing 9 areas, each with 27 enemies, a boss, plus dungeons with enemies, it builds up. That's a lot of dialogue. So if you've ever tried playing this game and you wonder what the deal is with the dialogue, that's it. That's the initial reason why some of the dialogue, or a lot of the dialogue, comes across as pretty weird. The second thing is they don't have any idea who the hell you are. You are literally walking around, interrupting other people's days, and then killing them. Which plays into the story of the game. It's not rocket science. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop this particular part of the combat tutorial video here, and I'll pick up later when we get to the boss.